Have you ever been in this situation? You walk into a supermarket in an English-speaking country. You're just trying to buy a few simple things. You speak English, but when you ask for something, the cashier looks confused. You repeat it, slower this time, but they still don't get it. That awkward silence, the look on their face, and your growing frustration, it's a moment we all dread. The truth is, it's not because your English is bad. It's because some things we say, even if they seem correct, can sound rude, strange, or unclear to native speakers. Especially in everyday places like supermarkets, where the way you say something matters as much as what you say. In today's podcast, I'll share with you 3 common phrases you should never say at the supermarket in English. More importantly, I'll also show you how to say those same things the right way, clearly, politely, and naturally. That way, you'll feel more confident the next time you need to ask for help, find an item, or simply make a purchase. Ready to avoid those awkward moments and speak more naturally? Let's get started. Let's begin with the first common mistake. This is something many English learners say without realizing how it might sound to a native speaker. The sentence is short, simple, and seems harmless. But when you say it in the wrong tone or context, it can come off as rude. The phrase is this: give me. Now think about it. You walk up to the counter, you point at what you want and say, give me a bottle of water. Or maybe, give me some chicken legs. It sounds like a normal request. After all, you're just trying to buy something. But here's the problem. In English, especially in Western culture, tone and politeness play a very important role in communication. The phrase, give me, can sound like a command. It can feel like you're ordering someone around instead of asking for help. Even if you say it with a smile, the words themselves can create an impression that you are being too direct or even disrespectful. Of course, you don't mean to be rude. You're just translating directly from your native language. In many languages, saying something like, give me this, is completely normal. It shows clarity. It gets to the point. But in English, especially when speaking with people you don't know well, being polite is the standard. And that politeness is usually shown through softening your words. So what should you say instead? Let me show you how native speakers would make the same request in a more natural and polite way. Instead of saying, give me a bottle of water, you could say, can I get a bottle of water, please? Or, could I have a bottle of water, please? You'll notice these questions are longer. They use modal verbs like can or could, and they end with please. These small details change the tone completely. It no longer sounds like a command. It becomes a polite request. Let's break it down even further. Can I get is casual and very commonly used in American English. It's perfect for a supermarket, a coffee shop, or any casual setting. For example, can I get 2 chicken breasts, please? Or can I get a bag of rice? It's short, friendly, and still respectful. On the other hand, could I have is slightly more formal. It's softer. It's often used when you're not sure if something is available or when you want to be extra polite. For example, could I have a paper bag instead of plastic? Or could I have 2 pounds of tomatoes, please? Both versions are perfectly acceptable. You can choose based on your comfort level and the situation. You might be wondering, why does this even matter? Why should you care about using can I get or could I have when give me is faster and easier? The answer is simple, because language is not just about grammar, it's about relationships. When you speak politely, you create a better impression. You build trust. People are more willing to help you. You avoid misunderstandings. And most importantly, you feel more confident in your own speech. Let me give you a real example. Imagine you're in line at a busy deli counter. There's a long queue, the staff is moving fast. You finally reach the front. If you say, "Give me half a pound of ham," the person behind the counter might do what you ask, but they might also feel like you're being too abrupt. Now imagine instead you say, "Hi, could I get half a pound of ham, please?" Suddenly, the tone shifts. You're being respectful. You're showing that you understand social rules. You sound like someone who belongs there. Another important point, the word please makes a huge difference. It's a small word, but in English culture it carries weight. It shows respect, it shows patience. And when you combine it with polite structures like "can I get" or "could I have," your English becomes not just correct, but natural and kind. Let's practice a few more examples together. Instead of "give me a bag," say "can I get a bag, please?" Instead of "give me your card," say "could I have your card for the points, please?" Instead of "give me the receipt," say "could I get the receipt, please?" See the pattern? Every sentence has a gentle start, a clear request, and ends with "please." That's the tone you want to aim for. It doesn't matter if you're buying bread, asking for change, or looking for an item. This pattern works in almost every situation. Also, don't worry if you forget sometimes. Don't be hard on yourself. Speaking another language is not about perfection, it's about progress. The fact that you're listening to this podcast means you care. You want to sound better, and that alone sets you apart. So here's a quick summary of our first mistake. Never start a request in a supermarket with "give me." It can sound rude or aggressive. Instead, try using "can I get" or "could I have," and always remember to say "please." It's a small change, but it has a big impact. You'll sound more confident, you'll make a better impression, and you'll feel more comfortable every time you speak. Before we move on to the second mistake, I want to leave you with a simple challenge. The next time you go shopping, try using one of these polite phrases. Pick any item you want to buy, and instead of saying "give me," try saying, "Can I get this, please?" Or "could I have 2 of these, please?" Notice how the cashier responds. Notice how you feel when you say it. With each small practice, you'll be building better habits. And over time, those habits will turn into natural fluency. Now that we've covered the first common mistake, let's move on to the second. This one has to do with choosing the wrong words for everyday items and how one small word can lead to big confusion. Ready? Let's go. Let's continue with the second mistake. This one is also very common, and it happens when you use the wrong word to describe something. You think the word is right. It feels like it makes sense. But to a native English speaker, it can sound strange, confusing, or even funny. This mistake usually comes from translating directly from your first language. You know what you want to say, you know the meaning, but sometimes in English, the same object can be described in a different way. And if you use the wrong description, you might not be understood. Let me give you an example. Imagine you go to the supermarket and say, "I want a big milk." Sounds easy, right? You're trying to say you want a large container of milk. But here's the problem. In English, we don't say "a big milk." We don't describe milk with size like that. Milk is a liquid, and liquids are usually counted by their container, not by using size adjectives like big or small. So what should you say instead? You should say, "I'd like a large bottle of milk," or "I'd like a gallon of milk," or "Can I get a litre of milk?" The difference here is that we are not saying big milk or small milk. We are being specific about the unit or container. Let's look at another example. Say you go to buy eggs and you ask for a piece of egg. This sounds unnatural. In English, eggs are usually counted by the dozen or by individual eggs. So we say, "a dozen eggs" or "6 eggs." If you say "a piece of egg," it might sound like you're talking about a cooked egg that has been cut. Why does this happen? because many learners use the word piece or big or small to describe objects the way they do in their own language. But English uses different logic. It focuses more on packaging, units, and formality. This means if you want to sound natural, you have to change how you think about describing things. Let's do one more example. Imagine you walk into the supermarket and say, "I want a small bread." The cashier might understand what you mean, but the phrase sounds unusual. Why? Because bread in English is also uncountable. You don't say a bread or a small bread. Instead, you say a loaf of bread or a small loaf of bread or a roll of bread. See the pattern? Whenever you are talking about food or liquids or anything sold by weight or volume, try to ask yourself, how do native speakers measure or describe this? In most cases, they don't use big or small directly. They use words like bottle, pack, carton, loaf, slice, piece, can, or box. Let me give you some examples you can use right away. Instead of saying, "I want a big water," say, "Can I get a large bottle of water?" Instead of "Give me small rice," say, "Could I have a small bag of rice?" Instead of "I want big meat," say, "Could I get a large piece of beef?" Or "Can I get half a kilo of pork, please?" These small changes make your speech clearer, more natural, and easier to understand. You're not just using English, you're using the logic of English. Also, when you ask for help in a supermarket, using the right term helps the staff find what you want faster. If you say, "I want a small milk," they might ask, "Do you mean a small bottle, a half gallon, a carton?" But if you say clearly, "Can I get a small carton of milk?" they'll know exactly what to give you. Let's take a moment to practice together. I'll say a common mistake, and then I'll give you the correct version. You can repeat after me if you'd like. Mistake, "I want a big milk." Correct, "I'd like a large bottle of milk, please." Mistake, "Give me a piece of egg." Correct, "Can I get one egg, please?" Mistake, "I want a small bread." Correct, "Could I get a small loaf of bread?" Mistake, "I want 2 big waters." Correct, "Can I get 2 large bottles of water?" Mistake, "Give me small meat." Correct, "Could I get a small portion of beef, please?" Now let's go one step further. You can combine this lesson with what we learned earlier. Use polite phrases like "could I have" or "can I get," and combine them with correct containers or measurements. When you do that, your English becomes smooth, clear, and practical. Here's one more tip. If you're not sure what word to use, just describe the container. You can point and say, "Can I get this size?" or "Can I get one like this?" Native speakers do this too when they're not sure what something is called. It's okay to ask, and it's okay to learn slowly. To summarize this second mistake, don't describe food and drinks using only size words like big or small. Think about how that item is usually packaged or measured in English. Then use that form in your sentence. It might be a bottle, a bag, a loaf, a slice, or a can. This will make your request more natural and much easier to understand. By making this small shift in how you describe things, you'll avoid a lot of confusion. You'll also sound more fluent and more connected to the way English is actually used in daily life. In the next part of the podcast, we'll look at the third mistake. This one is about using slang or casual words in the wrong setting. Sometimes even native speakers make this mistake, but when English learners do it, it can lead to some awkward or funny moments. Let's dive into that in the next section. Now let's talk about the third mistake. This one is a little different. It's not about grammar. It's not about using polite phrases. It's about the tone and choice of words. More specifically, it's about using slang or overly casual expressions in the wrong place, like a supermarket. Many English learners pick up slang from movies, music, or social media. Slang can make you sound cool. It can help you connect with native speakers in casual conversations. But if you use slang in the wrong context, it can be confusing, inappropriate, or even offensive. Let's take a common example. You walk into the supermarket and say, "Yo, where's the booze?" You might have seen this in a movie. Maybe a character says it in a fun or rebellious way. But here's the thing. If you say that to a supermarket staff member, it might not go well. First, yo is very casual. It's usually used between close friends. Using it with a stranger, especially in a customer service situation, can sound disrespectful. Second, the word booze is slang for alcohol. It's not a bad word, but it's informal. It's not something you'd usually say in a polite or professional setting. A better way to ask would be, "Excuse me, where can I find the alcoholic drinks?" Or, "Could you tell me where the wine section is?" These sentences are clear, they're respectful, they fit the environment, and they still show that you're confident in speaking English. Here's another example. Imagine you go to the counter and say, "Hey man, give me some of that stuff over there." It might sound cool in a movie, but in real life, it's confusing. What is that stuff? What does gimme mean to someone who's not familiar with your accent or style? Hey man also sounds too personal when you're talking to a staff member you don't know. Instead, try something like, "Hi, can I get some of that cheese over there, please?" Or, "Could I have a look at that one, please?" These are still casual, but they're polite. They show respect for the other person's role and space. Let's talk for a moment about the role of tone in English. In many cultures, directness is a sign of confidence. You say what you want, you don't waste time. But in English, especially in service situations like supermarkets, restaurants, or public places, tone is everything. How you say something matters just as much as what you say. If you use slang or speak too casually, it can make people uncomfortable. It might sound like you're trying too hard to be cool, or worse, like you don't care. Of course, that's not what you mean. You're just trying to sound natural. But natural doesn't always mean slang. In fact, the most natural English is usually the simplest, the kind that gets your message across clearly, kindly, and with confidence. Let's look at a few slang terms or overly casual phrases that you might want to avoid in a supermarket. Instead of saying "gimme," say "can I get" or "could I have." Instead of saying "where's the booze," say "where can I find the alcohol." Instead of saying "hey dude," say "excuse me" or simply "hi." Instead of saying "I need that stuff," say "can I get that item," or name it directly. Instead of saying "this place is lit," say "this store looks great," or "you've got a nice selection." You might notice a pattern here. The more you use neutral, polite language, the smoother the interaction becomes. You're not trying to impress, you're trying to connect. That's what real communication is about. Now, I'm not saying you should never use slang. In fact, learning slang is part of learning any language. It helps you understand jokes, music, and everyday conversations. But there's a time and place for everything. Slang is great with friends. It works in casual chats. But when you're in public, especially in customer service situations, it's better to keep things respectful and clear. Let's go through a short practice. I'll say the slang version, then the more natural version you should use in a supermarket. Slang: "Give me 2 beers." Polite: "Could I get 2 bottles of beer, please?" Slang: "Yo, where's the chips at?" Polite: "Excuse me, where can I find the chips?" Slang: "I need that thing over there." Polite: "Can I take a look at that item, please?" Slang: "Hey man, how much is this stuff?" Polite: "Hi, could you tell me the price of this, please?" Slang: "Is this on sale or what?" Polite: "Do you know if this is on sale?" Every time you choose the polite version, you're making yourself more understandable. You're building confidence. You're training your brain to think like a native speaker, not just sound like one. There's one more benefit. When you speak clearly and politely, people treat you better. Staff are more willing to help. They might speak slower for you. They might even give you extra tips like where to find a cheaper brand or which product is on discount. Communication becomes smoother, shopping becomes easier, and you feel more in control. Before we finish this section, I want to remind you of something important. Making mistakes is part of learning. If you've ever used slang in the wrong situation, don't feel bad. We've all done it. Even native speakers sometimes say the wrong thing at the wrong time. What matters is that you're learning, you're aware, and now you're improving. So to sum up mistake number 3, be careful with slang or casual phrases when speaking English at the supermarket. What sounds cool in a movie may not work in real life. Instead, use clear and polite language. Choose simple phrases that show respect. It's the easiest way to sound natural, be understood, and feel confident. In the final part of the podcast, we'll wrap everything up. I'll give you a quick summary of all 3 mistakes, and I'll share a simple way to practice everything we learned today in your next shopping trip. Let's go. Let's quickly review what we've learned today. First, we talked about the phrase, give me. Even though it's simple and direct, it can sound rude in English, especially in public settings like a supermarket. Instead, try using can I get or could I have, and always remember to add please. It shows respect and makes your English sound more natural. Second, we looked at how using words like big milk or small bread can lead to confusion. In English, liquids and many food items are not described by size alone. They're described by container or unit. So remember to say things like a bottle of milk, a loaf of bread, or a dozen eggs. This small shift will help people understand you right away. Third, we talked about slang. Words like gimme, yo, or booze might sound fun, but they're often too casual or unclear in public places. It's better to keep your language polite and simple. That way, your message is clear and your tone is respectful. All 3 of these mistakes are easy to make, but they're also easy to fix. With just a little practice, you can speak more confidently and comfortably every time you go shopping. So here's your challenge. The next time you visit a supermarket, try using at least one of the phrases we practiced today. Notice how the staff responds. Notice how you feel. With each small step, your English gets better. Thank you for listening. If this episode helped you, don't forget to follow the podcast and share it with a friend. I'll see you in the next one.